This week, the Hermitage ruins. We went before City Hall, and we'll talk about that. And I also like to talk about Christopher Healey and his artwork. He's a Hamilton-based artist in Hamilton and doing some very interesting stuff. This week on Hamilton Artist Update. Originally, I was going to do this Friday night. I'm working late, so I thought I would do it after 8 o'clock. It'd be nice and dark, and it would be a very interesting background. But unfortunately, there's been a accident on the 403, and it's shut down everything at Aberdeen, and it's now about 6:30, 7 o'clock, and the highway is supposed to be closed to about 8:30 tonight. So traffic coming out of Westdale is just intense. Everyone's trying to get around it. So rather than trying to navigate the local streets with that, I thought, well, it's Thursday night, I'll do it tonight. A little bit earlier than I thought, and a little bit different conditions, but nevertheless. So here I am on a Thursday night. Usually do these reports on Friday nights, but tonight I'll be doing it on Thursday night. So something different. So, the Hermitage ruins. Last night, Wednesday, September 24th, Hamilton City Council passed the General Issues Committee report, which contained in it the plan to save the Hermitage. So, just to recap, what that entails is that $200,000 approximately that was allocated to the Hamilton Conservation Authority for partial demolition, I guess in 2013, that got by me, is being permitted to be reallocated to proper restoration, let's put it that way. Another additional $200,000 is being provided by the city to help with that work, and then a final $200,000 has to come from the community. Lloyd Ferguson has said that he's already raised about $100,000 to do the work, leaving another $100,000 to be raised from the community. Quite a tall order. Marla and Leanne seem to be quite confident that that should be achievable, and I will leave it to their judgment on that. Myself, I've done a little bit of fundraising in the past. Find that a very large number to deal with, but nevertheless, they're confident, so we should be confident as well. I really want to praise Leanne and Marla. They have done a fantastic job up to this point. I have been sort of haranguing the permits committee to stand up and say no to the request to grant the conservation authorities request for a partial demolition, and thankfully they came through, and this is the result of it. With people like Leanne and Marla coming forward and creating a Facebook page and getting up to, as of yesterday, over 900 people as members of that. And what that's important is it shows that there's support in the community for it. One of the problems I think that heritage advocates have is that the critics will say that the public doesn't care about it, and therefore why should we allocate money or make designations on buildings if the public doesn't care. I do believe the public doesn't care, it's just it's sometimes hard to reach out, and there is many, unfortunately there is many calls on the public support 4 heritage designated buildings, and there's a bit of a fatigue factor. But Marla and Leanne were able to come together and really reach out to their communities, and I think really the Ghostbusters out there are the ones that saved the Hermitage. There is quite a large following of people who are interested in the paranormal and in ghosts, and the Hermitage is reputed to be haunted, and those folks really came forward and expressed their support and appreciation and value of the Hermitage ruins, and that it should be saved and not reduced down to basically a walled garden, which is like a 3 to 4 foot wall of what was there currently. And I know some people, you know, some heritage advocates are kind of poo-poo that because they go, that's not real history. Well, anyway you get there, you know, like you need some kind of romance, and if ghost stories help makes it more interesting, more popular, then all the power to it. It's a way of exploring history. If you're got a supposedly 19th century ghost haunting a ruins, then you have to learn something about the 19th century and why that building is there. How you get to the history is not as important as actually getting to it at the end of the day, and developing appreciation for some of Hamilton's fantastic heritage. And Leanne and Marla were able to tap into that support, and that really, you know, get 900 people out or onto their Facebook page to show there was support. And then the second part of that equation is that Lloyd Ferguson really came through and really has been the organizing force behind getting the Conservation Authority on board. Now I assume that there's been some conversations with Brian Mahady, but that hasn't really been spoken. That's just my assumption. But Lloyd Ferguson, by being familiar with the workings of City Hall, being the representative at Ancaster, he was able then to make the arrangements. He got the stonemason guy who's come on board and is going to do the work, and that's really good. So way to go, Lloyd. As I've said before, he deserves a lot of credit here. He really came forward on this issue. So a very pleasing development. It's only now the tough part comes in, which is raising the money. $100,000 is, at least in my eyes, is a tough challenge. Especially, I can imagine that there would be those in the community that would prefer donations to go to an independent third body that would only release those funds if the commit was if the proper conservation work was performed on the ruins, and not made it into sort of some kind of something that it isn't, lose the authenticity. And that's one of my concerns, that in the restoration work that's supposed to be done, that we don't lose that it's an authentic building, a period piece, and make it more than it currently is, or less than it currently is. But Lloyd Ferguson seems very confident of the stonemason who's coming out of Ancaster. He seems to be doing a very good job on the 1812 barracks in Ancaster. That looks very very impressive. I believe that's being turned into a hotel. If I'm not mistaken. If I am, I apologize in advance. But that looks like he's doing a very good job on that. So if that's the kind of work he's planning to do on the Hermitage, then I think we'll end up with something that's very good. Now, what they're planning to do is to label all the stones and take them down one by one, and then I believe put a new foundation in, and then rebuild it, remortar the whole structure currently 3 walls. Now I view the Hermitage as a historical landscape as well. I'm very keen on historical landscapes and buildings that sit within that. And my personal belief is I think the remains of the outer buildings should be preserved and not used as raw materials. It's not clearly visible currently because the grass has been cut down, but as far as I can see, all the stone that was once part of the full building of the Hermitage is still there in piles. It's just covered in grass right now off to the sides, and so there should be enough rubble to use to build, to rebuild, to replace stones that are not suitable, or to fill in gaps where things have collapsed, or so forth. And so my hope is that as this moves along, that they'll realize that there's no need to take down, principally it's the laundry washing building at the back of the property, and there's a few minor walls along the side and the rear wall of the mansion, which is there's only about a third of that. So hopefully they'll see the light and realize that, at least in my view, I think there's enough raw material on the property to fill in any of the gaps. There shouldn't be any necessity to tear down those remaining buildings. So that's where we're at on that. Again, well done, Leanne and Marla. You did a fantastic job. And if that's any sign of what's coming in the future, then I'm certain that you guys will raise the $100,000 required. What you've done so far is fantastic, and I really do think, and it's an example to other heritage advocates in the community, that's the kind of effort that you need to do. You have to go out to the grassroots. You have to make it accessible and popular in a way. Bring the stories forward that why this building is important. Don't just assume that because there's a heritage destination on it that people will appreciate the value of it. People understand information through stories, and the Hermitage ruins have tons of history and story behind it that people can understand and appreciate. And I really think that's the secret of it, to tell the story that these heritage designated buildings and historically important buildings have to tell. And Leanne and Marla were able to tap into that, and through telling that story, it became accessible to people, and when it became accessible to people, people came out to support it. So that's the power of good storytelling. So thanks very much to you guys. You did a great job. Okay, I just want to do a shout out to Christopher Healey. He's a local Hamilton artist. He does a lot of video work and photography work, which I'm a great admirer of. I don't like all this stuff, but all the stuff that he does put out there is very original and very thought-provoking. And his website is a must see. I'm always following. I follow his WordPress. I think it's WordPress page on a regular basis. I follow his updates. He's got a nice series of videos and photos up right now. He's just updated his site, revamped it, and it's a very impressive creative site. It really does some interesting stuff. He's down in Bartonville, as they call it, and his stuff is really good. He's one of the few artists, I'm aware of, Hamilton artists, who are really exploring the inner city landscape. And again, landscape and architecture is very much the heart of what I'm interested in. And he's doing some really good work, and I think more people should be following what he does, because he's a very talented artist. He strongly influences my thinking on art, and I look to him to be inspired on a number of ways when I'm looking for fresh ways to look at architecture and landscape in Hamilton. He really forges new ground, so I really just want to take a moment to do a shout out to him and say I'm very impressed with his latest work, and I would encourage you all to take a look at his blog. I'll put the link down below so that you can go to him. Again, a very impressive artist in Hamilton. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye.